Good evening. This is the meeting of the Groton Board of Education Committee of the Whole meeting being held on Monday, August 18th at 6:04 p.m. In attendance tonight, we have in person, we have Matthew Schulman, Jen White, Adrian Johnson, myself, and remote we have Andrea Ackerman, Ian Thomas, and Jay Whitloff, and Dean Antipas will not be attending the meeting tonight. Also present we have the business manager Rita, and we have the superintendent Susan Austin, and we have the pleasure of giving us a presentation tonight, John Reiner. And so the first thing on the agenda is approval of the meeting minutes for July 14, 2025. It's attachment 1 in your agenda. I hope everyone had a chance to review the minutes.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
Are there any corrections? Any questions? Okay, we move on. The minutes are approved as written. The next item on the agenda is discussion of future housing development and its effect on Groton Public Schools. And tonight we have John Reiner. He is the Director of Planning Services and Development.
Planning and Development Services. Close.
Planning and Development Services for the town of Groton. And he's going to tell us how the new housing and the old housing development is going to affect our school enrollment. Okay?
Okay, great. Well, thanks for having me, everyone. Again, John Reiner, Director of Planning and Development Services for the town of Groton. The chair had asked that I come and talk to all of you a little bit and answer some questions about, what's happening in town from a housing perspective, potential impacts on future school populations, and kind of talk a little bit about demographics and kind of the changing landscape of where we live and what's happening. I think a lot of people have heard me talk about that housing over the past few years, and it's not just a Groton issue, but a Connecticut, New England, a national issue. There's a great housing shortage. We've been doing some housing market studies looking at the need for more housing in Groton to meet basic demand of the housing and the households that are in and forming in Groton over the next 10 years. We actually need over 6,400 new housing units to meet basic demand. That number is not capturing the fact that, of our population of about 39,000, we also have a workforce of over 27,000. 82% of our workforce commutes here. And when I talk about needing 6,400 plus new housing units, that does not mean capturing all of those commuters. It actually doesn't mean, it means not even changing that percentage of commuters. It's just looking at new household formations, how backlogged we are on household formation, and our growing workforce and basic demands. Some of the things when we look at housing and household creation, a lot of people have asked, why do we need more housing if our population hasn't really changed? And what we've seen happen is, in kind of basic numbers from the 1970s till now, back in the 70s, we may have had closer to 3 people per household, whereas now we have much closer to 2 people per household. So that same population with 1 less person per household, you need 50% more housing units just to house the same population. So, that's where household size has a really big impact on what's happening in Groton, and also the demand of the types of housing in Groton. So up until recently, we have not had a lot of new housing built in Groton. I think in the last 15 years, the largest subdivision, so of single-family houses that we've seen, has been 7 houses. We're not seeing a lot of people build single-family housing like they used to. It's really expensive. There's not a lot of good land left. And that's often, I think, when a lot of us think about new households and new family creation, we think about families living in either single-family housing or apartments of bedrooms of 3 bedrooms or bigger. Much of the housing development that we've seen recently has actually been in what's being proposed studio apartments, 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms. And for example, Triton Square, the old Sealy School, they're proposing, I think they're going to have about 306 housing unit, total multifamily apartments there. Of those, 43 are studio units, so no bedrooms, just an open studio. 184 of those units are one bedrooms, and 77 are two bedrooms. And I can share this data with all of you later. But I give that example. The developers of that property expect somewhere between, when that's fully built out, somewhere between 7 and 12 school-age children total in the whole development of 306 apartments. And that's pretty consistent when we look across studios 1s and 2s. There's very few families with children living in those types of units because there's just not the room for them. Often what we'll see is sometimes new families with young children might move into something like that. But once those kids start hitting around school age, that's when we see them move out into something else.
So we're going to share our data.
Yes.
Because like I said, I already know of a few that have moved in, so I think there's synergy here where I can share some data with John so he can understand what we're starting to see. Yeah.
And, I think tonight I'll do the best I can giving you what information that we have. I think this is probably going to be the beginnings more of a conversation as opposed to giving you end results on things. And there's stuff that we can look at with our team, especially as part of our Plan of Conservation and Development, Groton 2035. We're in the process of doing a lot of the data analytics and reporting out on that now. Next month in September, we're actually going to be going to talk to our Planning and Zoning Commission a couple of times, focusing just on housing, so that they can have a good understanding of the demand, what's happening, what's being proposed. And I think we'll have a lot more numbers out of that. That might also help you looking at projections over the next few years. I think it's also helpful to know that when we start talking about some of these projects, these are not things that just, okay, we talk about it and they're coming online in the next few months. These projects often take years between the planning and approval process and then the construction process. If you look at Triton Square, the old Sealy School, they started that early in the COVID days. And here we are in 2025, and they'll be wrapping up the total construction of that probably sometime this fall. So some of these projects can take, 4, 5+ years from really when they have an agreement to start doing something on the property, to designing it, getting the approvals through the planning and zoning process, then designing the building, getting the building permit, and then the construction process can often take 18 to 24 months. So again, there's a lot of lead time on all of these things. So there's kind of that. Some other projects that are out there, Columbia Crossing, which is down more in the center of town, that's going to be 184 new units.
That's the one on 184?
Nope, that one is...
Where is Columbia Crossing?
Columbia Crossing is the old Burroughs Farm property, right at the corner of 1 and Fort Hill there.
Okay.
That one's going to be about 184 units. Actually, sorry. Hold on. Or is that Columbia? No, that's Columbia Gardens. Sorry. Too many names here.
So you have a plain Columbia and then a Columbia Garden?
Columbia Gardens, Columbia Crossings are the different ones that we have there. Those are some ones that we actually have. My computer is going a little slow here. I can pull some of these up to look at some of these spreadsheets. But, when we're looking at the one that on Gold Star Highway, the one that was that piece of property on Route 184, that's 395 units. But again, studios, 1 and 2 bedroom units. We're not going to see 3-bedroom units. We don't expect very many school-age children out of that one. We expect plans to be submitted to our building department sometime in the next few months on that. Again, probably an 18 to 24-month construction on that one. But no building permits have been issued for that. So, there's a number of these projects that have gotten approval. The Ledges Phase 2 received approval a few years ago. They haven't pulled a building permit yet. So often when I talk about these types of projects, and I know I'm throwing kind of a lot of numbers out here, until hammers are swinging, nails are going in things, and we're seeing sticks going up, these things get approved, but until they're onto construction, we really can't count on them actually happening. This year, we've had quite a few units actually get approved in total, but again, that is things that we haven't seen a lot of permits pulled for yet. Another one that I think has gotten a lot of attention is the next phase on Fairview. That's one that we could actually see. So that up on Lestertown Road, it's age restricted. Of that, there's 193 independent units and 72 assisted and memory care units. Those are going to be, age restricted type of units. But if people from Groton move into those, we'll probably see some people moving out of their single-family homes. Those homes will open up, and then you might start seeing some family creation through that. That's going to be really hard to track, but will there be a change happening there? Yes. Is that going to take some time? Certainly. I don't expect... they have not submitted building plans for that yet, and I think that project is probably at least a year, if not longer, until they start construction.
I thought it was 55 and older.
Well, some of it's 55 and over, yes,
Okay.
but as people move into that from other places in Groton, you'll see if I am over 55 and own a single-family house, sell my house, move into that,
All right, I get it.
now there's a new
Yeah.
single-family house on the market.
Yeah, okay.
So, and again, because we're not building a lot of single-family housing, just there's not the land for it, and the cost of it is incredibly high. Talking with the developer recently who builds in this area, he was saying, yes, we can build starter homes. New starter homes, yeah, they only cost about $500,000 each because the cost of materials, the cost of labor, the cost of land, and the cost of the permitting. So those are very different than when we think of what's, starter homes, I think when many of us were entering the housing market. So that's kind of a broad brush on things. I did bring up a map that I could just show a little bit of where we're seeing development over the past 10 years in town. I don't know if Mark can bring that one up.
Can you bring up the map, Mark, that John gave you, please? Thank you.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple of things, and I can, share this with the superintendent if you want to include it in your packet. So this is how new housing opportunities approved, not necessarily built, between July 2015 and July of 2025.
Mark, can you make it a little larger?
Yeah, there you go.
There you go. Thank you.
So, what you'll see, I'm just going to, let's see here so you can still hear me. So these little kind of diamond shaped here, those are accessory dwelling units. You'll see, so generally those are going to be one unit, often a studio or a one bedroom as part of a house, in addition to a house, and that type of like in-law apartment we often think of. We're seeing a lot of those popping up in the Mystic area. Along Route 1 here, you're seeing a number of the multifamily. So again, this is over a 10-year time period. One of those is the village at Bluff Point that was built, maybe I think there was a small multifamily development. There's another also by the Rogers family where the old massage school was. They're building some multifamily back in there. And again, as you look up, Triton Square up in this area, and you can see a number of things happening on the west side of town. A number of these multifamilies, again, things that have been approved, but not necessarily built. So we're seeing, and people have asked, well, why are we seeing more development happen there? Well, there's a lot more. Historically, that's where our infrastructure is. So our water, our sewer, good access to electrical utilities, roadways, that's always been historically our major employment center, and the land over there is zoned for multifamily housing. So that's where we're seeing that type of development happening.
So that one purple triangle can mean 10 houses?
Yeah, it could mean 10 units, it could mean 300 units.
Oh, okay.
So we were just trying to identify from a multi-unit, if you look at the legend on the right-hand side, and also if we scroll over to the right a little bit on that map, you'll see number of units or number of lots up at that top in that little graph. So scroll down a little bit. So of those, almost 1,900 units approved, we don't even have 800 of those that have actually gotten a building permit. So there's still a lot of units out there that have been approved that don't have building permits yet.
Is there a specific timeline that you give them to start getting the building permits, or no?
A lot of that is really up to the, I mean, there's certain timelines of how long an approval is valid for, but a lot of it is dictated by the market. It's dictated by cost and materials, by the private equity market where they're getting money from. I mean, we've, again, kind of the Ledges Phase 2, I think is a good example. That was approved back in, give me 1 second here. Was it 22? Back in 2022 for 195 units, and they still haven't built it. They haven't pulled building permits. There's been some discussions of moving forward on that, but it still hasn't happened. So some of these things, it just takes time. They look at site costs and you know, again, you know, the money to build this stuff. We often think, oh, you know, just getting through the planning process is the difficult part. That's the easy part. Actually building these things is often quite difficult and takes a long time. We've gotten questions just about other smaller commercial developments in town. Why are these car washes taking so long to build? Sometimes things just take a while. Yeah, there's a number of them. Yeah, and you know, some of the gas stations that we've seen, and sometimes it could be as simple as, oh, there's some, you know, electrical transformer that's backlogged 6 months that they can't get their hands on. Brings the whole project to a head, and you know, that can really slow things down.
It seems like most of the multi-family housing is going to be on the west side of town.
There's a lot more of it happening more on the west side. Again, historically, when we look at our zoning map of the town, our zoning's been pretty consistent for a long time of what is allowed where. And historically, when you start looking at that Route 1 corridor, that Route 12 corridor, and the Route 184 corridor to the west, that's been kind of our commercially focused area. We haven't seen a lot of development there in a number of years. And now that there's actually, I mean, when we think about the pressures that we're now getting because of the ramp up at Electric Boat, people and businesses want to be here now.
Mm-hmm. Matthew?
My instinct, without any data to support it, is that do you think that people are waiting for interest rates to come down 1 or 1.5 points as a matter of financing multi-million-dollar projects?
Some of it could be that. I know that a lot of the money comes from the private equity market. And again, this is outside of my realm of things. But when I talk to developers of what's holding them up, sometimes they're just marketing properties out there because the demand is there and the rents, you know, again, supply and demand. Right now, our apartment vacancies are at an unhealthy low percentage. You know, things are not vacant. Everything's getting rented up. Contrary to the rumor spreading of some people that, you know, Triton Square isn't filling up, they are, in talking with the developer last week, they are ahead of their projections. They thought it was going to take 18 months to fill the place up. He'll have it filled up, and that's what all their financial pro formas have. They'll be filled up well before 18 months into the since construction or since COs. And again, they're getting the market rents that they expected.
Is this Triton Square?
This is Triton Square, yes.
So you don't see a big impact for our school system with the new housing development?
With what we have proposed now, I do not. Now, again, once these things start getting built, that time is going to tell of who's locating in these. Because, again, talking with the developers who are building some of the stuff now, who are they seeing? It's mostly young professionals that are moving in. Mm-hmm. When we had visited some multifamily developments, some newer ones in some other municipalities, maybe a year, 2 years ago, you would see young families and some, you know, older single-person households over 55 that would move into these. So once we start seeing people in town selling their home and moving into some of these multifamily developments, when those homes start freeing up, then we could start seeing a slow change. But again, we need to look at demographics because nowadays people are having less kids, if any kids at all, and they're having them a lot older than I think, you know, when we look back 10, 20, 30 years ago. So all of those things are going to have an impact on the growth of our school-age population.
Jane?
So I apologize, I'm not really as
Jane,
familiar.
Jane.
I'm not as familiar with the 2035 plan, right? So is the concept that we're going to be building multi-units, and then as these families grow, that they're going to move into our neighboring towns, and we will always just be like a transition type of town?
You know, a lot of it, I don't know. I think it's really the short of it. Right now, what the biggest demand in the market is kind of that we have a lot of single-family housing spread throughout the town. We also do have a lot of apartments concentrated in certain areas around town. Right now, there's a lot of land that is zoned for single-family housing, but it's incredibly expensive to build it. To build the roadways, to build the infrastructure, and then to build the homes. So we're not seeing really almost any new single-family home activity happening. So what we are seeing are more of the multifamilies. Over time, we're also trying to look at other ways and mechanisms of how we can get back to. There's another project that we're working on right now. We've gotten some money from the Department of Defense looking at what is often referred to as missing middle housing, or like starter home type housing. Not affordable housing, but just more those smaller units that we don't see being built anymore. And we're looking at that very thoroughly right now. We've just kind of started that project to say, what do we need to do in town with our zoning, with our land use regulations to allow that type of zoning to start happening and that type of building to start happening, so we can actually see a little bit of a, not just a one-size-fits-all with multifamily housing, but some other options there as well.
Yeah, because I mean, like I said, my ignorance bad, right? Like, but I'm like growing up in Groton. I'm not really sure I want the town that I grew up in to be like a transition thing. You know what I mean? So it's almost as if it is expensive. I don't know what to do or what to say, but if the rest of the other towns are in the same position building apartments too, then we're all in it. We all float up together. But if it's just like other towns are building those single-family homes and we're building the multi, then there's a concern there, for me at least. And then, like, eventually, you know, those 2 bedrooms, right, like, people can fit kids in there, and we will probably see an impact on our district. As you know, it takes a long time to get the schools built and approved. So it's almost like, do we need a year lead time, 2 years lead time as prior to these buildings being built? And just wanted to get your feedback on that.
So, one, you know, every municipality around us in the region, in Connecticut, in New England, around the country, is dealing with the same issues that we are. So this isn't something that's unique to us in Groton of, oh, we're the only ones having a housing crisis. And I think, you know, because often when we're at meetings, we hear from people of, well, why is this our problem? Why can't all the towns around us build housing? And we have enough housing as it is. And those other communities need a lot of housing as well, and it's not just build it in one place or build it somewhere else. We all have to kind of, like you said, lift that up together. Again, it just comes to opportunities. What can people actually build that, you know, what do developers do? They build our community. They build our community the way that we design it, through our regulations, through our plans, through our ordinances. And if we're not getting the community that we want, well, some of that's on us because we're not giving them and enabling them to build what it is we want, but we also have to live within a practical, you know, reality of finances. You know, it's many people say, oh, well, I want a house. I want a single-family house out in the woods. And, yeah, I want a Lamborghini, but I can only afford a Subaru. You know, those are the things that we all have to think about. And those entering the housing market, who we employ, and, you know, the demographics financially of the community.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Adrian?
Yeah, so are there, I mean, I know the short-term rental thing is, it's, the state's discussing that now, right? Is there any chance of STRs, because I think there's hundreds of them, right, in Groton, coming back to the actual housing market from kind of the commercial market?
So there's approximately there's about 300 or less short-term rentals in all of Groton, town, city, and did that or does that have an impact on, our overall housing population? Yes. Is it as big of an issue? I don't think it's going to solve our problems from a housing creation or family size creation, because we know that now looking at data from, Airbnb and VRBO and some other entities out there. But Groton has historically always had some level of short-term rentals at Groton Long Point, in some of our other villages. So what that historic number of short-term type rentals was before, I don't have an exact figure on that. Do we think over time we're going to start to see that number slowly dwindle down a little bit? Yes. Do I think we're going to ever see all 300 of those units pop back out on the year-round market? Probably not. There'll always be some demand for it. Have we seen a lot of new created? No. It's a bit of an onerous process now to create new short-term rentals. In Groton, they're only allowed in certain areas, and there's a lot of requirements in order to do it moving forward.
All right. So yeah, my question with that is, mostly are we going to see more families because some STRs maybe come back to the market? So I'm really just wondering about school children.
We might see a few. I don't think it's going to have a major impact on what we're seeing right now.
All right. And then over time, just because it seems like the housing available is going to change in Groton, it seems like we're going to end up right now, the numbers that you've given us, that's over 10% of the number of housing units in the town, correct?
Mm-hmm.
We're at 16,000 or something like
Yeah.
that existing. So, 12% increase in number of housing units. Are families just going to adapt and say, well, this is what's available. We're going to make it work with 2 kids in a 2-bedroom or maybe a 1-bedroom. So, looking down the future, I know the developer maybe said they expect 7 to 12 school-age children.
Mm-hmm.
But in the future, we think that's just going to change because, without having to commute to Norwich or North or something like that, people are just going to accept what's available.
So there are some minimum housing standards by law of how many people you can put in a housing unit, and especially with multifamily, and as people are renting those out, they look at wear and tear on certain things. So even the developers that we're talking to, they are selective of, they're not going to rent a 1-bedroom unit to a family of 7. It doesn't work. That's incredible wear and tear on the unit, and that's not what it was designed for. So there's going to be some level of selection there. Again, a lot of this, it's a snapshot in time, and we look at this and try to extrapolate from historical data the best that we can looking forward. And I do think over time we're going to start seeing the composition of our households change a little bit. I think as more studios and 1-bedroom units come online, I can think about the neighborhood that I live in, how many single-family homes have one person in it that is over 65 years old. And why? Because there's nowhere for them to go. They have too much house. They don't even use the second story of their home anymore because, they can't climb the stairs so well, but they want to stay living in the community that they grew up in, but there's nowhere to go because nobody's building, 1-bedroom, either accessory dwelling units or small little condo type developments or kind of those small starter homes or things along those lines, or having the type of apartment living that they could have living off of the nest egg if they sold their house. So I think some of it, there's going to be a little bit of a wait and see. But I'm not expecting, again, we look across the trend regionally, nationally, you don't see a lot of school-age kids coming out of these multifamily developments, again, of the studios 1s and 2s.
Or, do we have complexes in Groton that meet those size that we could just look at and see how many kids are in them?
Yeah, so, one, Triton Square is being built out right now, so we can look at that one. There's another one over on Gunjiwamp, over at Route 12, that was built around 2015. I'm sure I could work with the superintendent and look at, I think that was about 146, 150 units.
Valley, off of Pleasant
Yes, correct. How many school-age kids are coming out of that one? So
Even places like Colonial Manor, I mean, they don't go by a sliding scale, I don't think, but, so they have 2 bedrooms and a couple of 3 bedrooms. We can see how many school-age kids come out of there. Because you want the rent to be about the same, right? Because Trident Square, the rent's about $2,000 or more, right?
Yep.
So you want the rent to be the same to see what kind of what kind of families are living in those developments.
I mean, I think you want to look at the rent, but really you need to look at the size of the unit, and
Yeah.
the number of bedrooms in the unit, because that really is going to dictate what's happening.
Because you have Colonial Manor, Boardson Place. I think that's on Benham Road.
Even the ledges, so like in the ledges, I think there's some 3 and 4 bedroom units. So those are the types of places historically where you would see more families. That's not what's being proposed to be built right now.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if they're saying 7 to 12 school-age children to start, but they're being very selective, I have to imagine that people will have, young professionals will move in, have children, and just stay there for a while. So I have to imagine that, what starts at 7 to 12, maybe in 5 years or 10 years might look different. And I'd be curious to see what those educated guesses
Yeah.
are.
And there's actually been a lot of kind of some regional studies that have been done. Again, looking at that, when you look at the studios, the 1s and the 2s, people might start to have kids, but once those kids hit that school age threshold, they're out. They don't want to be. It's very difficult to raise a family in a 1-bedroom apartment. It's something they can do when they're tiny, but they find somewhere else and move to other districts.
Yeah, so I mean, because you say they're out, they have to go somewhere. So we're just thinking that they're just going to end up outside of Groton.
Not necessarily. They would look for other housing options within Groton. And again, these are the cards that we're dealt with. We are trying to solve some housing problems to just have young professionals and seniors. That's not how a community operates. We need a good cross-section of housing at all age levels, all income points, and we're doing the best that we can, but we're really kind of chasing our... there's a long run up a hill because we have not been building a lot of housing for a number of years, and now we're trying to catch back up with what that demand is.
Do you have different numbers, Susan?
Well, I told John coming in that we think we have the 7 to 12 already. That's what I've been told, that Triton Square is the one that has 306 units. And we feel like we've had several families, but I'm going to get them the data.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get them the data.
No, and that would be great to see because again, those are around the estimates at the time of construction. It would be great to see if things are different, and then that's going to help us on projections for other units too.
Matthew?
So I have a concern, and I'm very glad to hear you're looking at a 10-year time horizon. My impression is that...
Matthew, can you talk?
I'm sorry. I'm glad you're looking at a 10-year time horizon. My presumption is that the developers are looking at the current market and making plans to penetrate that market for what's available, and that's young professionals, pre-family formation by and large. But the ones who come in, and I know 2 who've come in from North Carolina, the ones who come in single at age 21, 22, when they're 32, a good share of them are going to be married and starting to have kids. So I'm wondering if our town government should be re-looking at what it is we want to ask for new developers to consider, and to point out that there are 1,800 units that are not CO'd yet, but are in process, and they're all small units. But these people are going to grow up, and by the time they build the project 6-7 years from now, there may be a different market. And I don't know, is that a rational approach?
Yeah, I mean, what developers often look at, so when we do things like a housing market analysis, which we've done a couple of them over the past few years, and we're in process of doing another one now, that we often look at that's economic development infrastructure. That's giving developers a good indication of in a much wider net of, hey, here's our needs in town. They look at our commuting patterns. They look at how many family people commute here, and they know that there's a great demand for housing at all sizes and all price points. It just comes down to, do we have the land for it? Is it zoned for it? Do people want it? I mean, if you pay attention to what's happening in town, a lot of the development that we have worked with whether it's town excess property, state excess property, most of the neighbors around it oppose it. So, there's a great need for housing everywhere. And I've never worked in any community where people want more development. Everybody thinks there's too much. We've been hearing there's already too much traffic. How could you have approved so much development? And again, a lot of that comes to very little has been built of what we've approved. The reason we're seeing so much traffic is because I think because of the influx of EB employees. The EB employment has gone up drastically over the past few years, and most of those people are commuting. So what are they doing? They're driving through our town to leave, as opposed to, if more of them lived here, there'd probably be shorter drives and we'd see less commuting traffic going through. There'd probably be other opportunities for people to have a shorter commute.
Does your office have a preference? I'm thinking of SB Butler. I've heard proposals on the one hand to make it a park, to on the other extreme or the other end of the option to make it multifamily housing, to make it a single-family units, to have a development of multiple single-family units. Do you guys have a preference?
So right now we're focusing on Pleasant Valley and then Groton Heights, and I think after that we're going to start working with the town council, working with the neighbors, and working with the community at large about what is the best future for SB Butler. I can tell you that putting a Triton Square size development there would be the most horrific thing that anybody could ever imagine. And when people tell me that's what's going to happen, that's just fear-mongering. So what is right or what's compatible? Let's look at what is already there in the surrounding neighborhood. And I think there's something along that level of compatibility. I think a portion of the site could be preserved as a park and as a playground for that area. I think there's a lot of options, but again, the ultimate decision on that rests with the town council, so we can give them some guidance and advice based off of community, much larger Groton feedback, and also hearing from people that there's a need for small homes, for single-family homes, attached or detached. I think there's some great options there for that, and some other sites around town.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Online, do you have any questions? Okay, Adrian?
Yeah, sorry, just one more I forgot to ask. So, we have, or at least we think we're going to be having some more submarines come in. Is Navy housing full right now? I don't know if they call it something else now, but I'm going to call it Navy housing.
Yeah, it's Navy Housing managed, it was Balfour Beatty, and I can't remember the name of the company now, but my understanding is it's full. Now, it's not all full of just Navy personnel, but if new Navy personnel come in, they get first preference when leases are up and things along those lines. I do think if we see more submarines coming in, and their families and they're going to be here for the long term, and their families are coming with them, that's where we're going to see an impact, I think, pretty quickly on our school, population. But again, that's not something we're seeing a lot of the housing that's being built looking at that demand.
I guess with this, my own feeling is that these are all really great. This is great information, but it's all very gray.
Yeah.
So as a school system, should we plan for more children? And if so, how many? And if that's not a question that can be answered with the information, is there a way that we can do some kind of a study or a scientific evaluation of things to say, all right, Board of Education, right now we've got 4,400 children. We think that we're going to have 100 more, 500 more, 500 less, or something like that. Because, if you were to watch the meeting later on tonight, we're going to have some discussion about class sizes, and
Yeah.
it seems like they're all full. So we're out of space now. We're very close to it.
Yeah.
So is there any way that we could have some kind of a detailed evaluation projection
Yes, so I think, one, in the short term, aside from the Navy personnel, do I expect a big change over the next 2 years in our school-age population, 2 to 3 years? No, I don't. But beyond that, I'm not really sure. I do think the best thing is probably some type of study. I know that there are firms out there that specialize in doing this work. There's a firm that we use that does a lot of our economic development analysis, Camoin and Associates. They are also doing some fiscal impact work for us as well, looking at projections, but again, a lot of it's based off of historic development patterns, looking at comparable communities, comparable developments. But is it something that, with the amount of growth and development pressures that we're feeling, the growth that we're seeing in employment in electric boat, as well as the potential changes at the Navy base with employees there and the subs, is it something that should further be studied? 100%.
All right. I guess my question would be, and I kind of brought this up last month, but my question would be, is there board interest? I have interest in having a study like that for planning purposes, but is there board interest aside from my own personal interest? And I'll leave it at that.
You can make a referral and send it to me, and then I'll check with the board.
All right.
Put it. Ian? Ian, you have your hand up?
Yes, sorry. So I just wanted to touch base. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for all the information. Curious to know if we can get a brief update on the state of play with the Groton Heights project and the Colonel Ledyard School project. I know Colonel Ledyard School did get approvals a number of years ago, and I'm just kind of curious to know, there's a bit of a holdup there. Are they back online? Are they moving forward?
Well, our conversation is basically how these projects affect our enrollment. Other than that, that's not what's on the agenda.
Well, the relation to the overall situation is as Mr. Reiner identified, the more of these come online, the idea is that is going to draw seniors and young professionals to the area, and the idea, again, the theory that seems to be the recurring theme is that as seniors are drawn into the high-density housing areas, then that'll free up single-family houses, and that will be where the young professionals then transition out of the apartments into area homes. So again, I'm just kind of curious to know, are they on? Is that a thing that is in the offing as far as are they going to be on track? In the 5-year window. If you don't feel it's germane, then I guess not. But I feel it is. And to that end, I guess I would support Adrian's referral. So I look forward to seeing that come forward. I think a study is warranted. I think the board should consider it. Thank you.
Yes or no? Are they on track? Yes or no?
Yes. For Colonel Ledyard, they're on track. And one thing I want to make very clear, I'm not stating that every single person over the age of 55 is going to suddenly want to sell their home and move into these new apartments that are being built. But we will see some people transition into them. So I just want to make that clear, that we're not expecting everybody to sell their homes and move into apartment living. But you'll start to see some turnover, again, when you look at the law of averages on this stuff.
One last question, Jen, and then our 45 minutes is up for this.
I forgot, my original question, what do you think is the lead time for us to consider some, schools? If, I know you said some of them haven't started being built, but if there's an expiration date on some of the approvals, people might start building sooner. And if we say 1 to 2 years, should we be acting now?
So, I think some of these expirations might be 5 or 10 years out from when they have to apply for a building permit. Okay. And even with those, if they hit a certain time frame, they can ask for an extension. So, there's things that they can do to kind of keep that clock running on them. Most of these projects, we expect to get built. We're just not sure when they're actually going to apply for a building permit and then start it. But again, from the time they pull a building permit, a lot of these bigger projects are going to take 18 to 24 months to construct. And when they're done, it still takes a little time to fill those up. A lot of times they often estimate it might take a year to then have all the units filled up. And then, again, who's moving into it? Is it a family that's already formed with, little kids that are already there? If we said, oh, we're going to start putting a lot of kids in these units, which I don't think is what's going to happen, but even from there, if it's a new household formation, it might take a little while before that kid that's not even born yet to then enter the school system. So I think you're going to see some lead time.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. Do you have a quick question without a big story to go with it? Just a question?
I'll wait because I'm going to ask for something to... I will ask later to suspend the rules so I can talk about the issue that I wrote the letter about.
Okay, all right. Thank you, John.
Thank you very
And if
much.
we have any questions, can we send them to you?
Send them to me. If I can answer them, I'll get you the information. Sorry that there's not a ton of yeses and nos, and this is the exact number for this, because a lot of this is very gray. We do the best that we can. It's based on things that aren't even built yet, but looking at assumptions of kind of past projections and where we think things are going to go.
Well, if you have any questions for John, send them to me, and I will send them to the town manager to give to John.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you, John.
Nice meeting
Thanks,
you all.
John. Thanks. The next item on the agenda is review of out-of-district tuition rates. That's attachment number 2. And Rita, thank you for staying with us.
No worries. So after reviewing the numbers that was presented to the Finance and Facilities,
Mark, can you put it up on the screen for me, please? Does he have it?
Which one? Which attachment is it?
Attachment 2?
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Caitlin.
so after reviewing it, we did adjust some numbers on the top. And the reason for that is going off of the EFS, which is the state report that we send, the state report of expenditures from FY24, there was an increase in expenditures for certain schools, and that's relative to grants that are included, could be Title I, could be ESSER. So you're going to see drops in the pure pupil expenditures over the past few years when you lose ESSER or if you lose grant funding. So we decided to revise the top 4 rates to make it more aligned with for the middle school, we made it more aligned with the high school and similar to the elementary and pre-K. And that is still,
It's now a full day.
Yeah.
That was the big issue, that it's no longer a half-day program. It's really the transition to kindergarten.
Excuse me, Susan, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I said pre-K is now really the transition to kindergarten program, and it is a full-day program. So it's similar to the elementary school
so it's
services.
still 85% of the elementary expenses, and same with the middle school and high school. It's 85% of the high school. But you are going to see fluctuations when you base it on the EFS, which is based on all of our expenses, grants included, which fluctuate year to year. So these are the proposed rates on the top. The other question was the self-contained, the first in the middle there. Me and Denise reviewed the numbers again, and we ended up basing it on one classroom for the academy. We were trying to gather all the classrooms and all the students and all the data, and I think that's where the rate was just too low. So we went with one classroom at the academy to come up with the $19,000 student rate. Again,
That would be in addition to whatever
the top,
whether it's an elementary,
Tuition.
middle school, or high school child, that would be in addition to.
Correct.
The way Learn does it, right?
yes, it's additional costs
Yeah.
on top of the regular tuition rates.
Oh, so say it was elementary, it would be the 16,000,
Right.
727 plus the 19.
Plus the special ed cost of 19,000, if they were in that classroom.
We do the same thing for the Learn schools and the New London, that we pay they're magnet schools, so we pay the magnet costs, but then we pay the additional costs for the services. And we did
Right.
look at Learn to see what their charges were, and we adopted very similar charges.
A question, if I may.
Go ahead.
I see the numbers, I see the rationale. I'm curious as to how many people or entities are paying us tuition currently for each of these 4 categories. Do we have those numbers?
We've had several high school students from Stonington and Westerly and around the area, North Stonington, that have wanted to be in the IB program, and they paid the tuition in the high school. And there's also costs that go with the IB as well. We have had a couple students in the surrounding area who were special needs, and they maybe had been with us and they wanted to stay with us, so they decided to pay the cost for the per pupil spending, or the 85% of the per pupil spending, and the additional special ed costs.
Maybe you can get us some hard numbers.
Yeah, it's very few. It's maybe 2.
So my concern is, are we going to be freezing out some students on a financial basis? Are we adding so much to the numbers? Actually, it looks like it'll be less money out of pocket because the other one goes down so much. I don't know whether or not there's an additional burden. I'm not saying there is. Is there? Could we find out if there's an additional burden to the families? And if they are so few, I don't want to know who the people are. I'm not looking for personal information. But if we're talking about 15 kids altogether, is there some way you can look at that and say, are there any families that would otherwise would want to be in the program that we're going to squeeze out on the basis of finance? Because we want equity in access as well. I'm not suggesting we have any firm data, but that's why I'm asking for the
Well,
number.
it's always going to be based on our enrollment and our projected numbers as well, that do we have room for them. And these are true costs to us as Groton Public Schools that the taxpayers paid for, resident students to attend. So it could, if you...
But many of them are fixed costs. Some of the costs that we have are based for our food service. If we have 12 students instead of 10, we've got to pay extra costs for the food for the extra 2 people. But we're still going to pay for the teacher, whether we have 10 or 12. And that's the difference between fixed and non-fixed costs. So I'm really trying to get a sense of what our non-fixed costs are. I don't know enough about finance. Do you get the sense of what I'm saying?
This is for our non-Groton residents.
They don't pay taxes.
They're not Groton residents.
Why would we want to give them a break? They don't pay
But
taxes.
these are not for our Groton residents. These are for students that may want to attend these special ed programs that we have, and it is based on going costs. So I'm not sure what.
So if a student in Ledyard wanted to come to do the IB class, that student from Ledyard would have to pay the $18,000 plus $2,800, and their town would not pay for any of that cost.
No, unless we become an intra-district magnet, we could do that, and then we would get funds from the town,
From the
just like
district.
we pay, and then the state would provide. So that might be worth entertaining.
I would like, if that's the case, because, as you say, the IB is one of the jewels in our crown, and if we had an inter-district thing, we would be attracting people from all over the area, and we'd be paid for it without burdening the families.
Well, we talked to the State Department of Ed about it already. So we're in the process.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Thank you.
I think it is a good plan, because there are other smaller communities that would, send their kids to either NFA or other areas, St. Bernard's, and it would be another place that they could entertain that, but we have to do a little more work.
And one time we had a student that lived out of district, and you did ask the superintendent would they pay, and they said no.
Yeah.
So you know? They
I
don't,
did. I
these
reached
are
out
for people that,
for this child's benefit.
yeah, right.
So what kind of timeline would you think it would take if that were the decision you made as superintendent, that that's worth pursuing? Are you looking at a year to get that to happen, to be an inter-district?
I will
No,
find
longer
out
than
more.
that.
I will find out more. Anne Marie knows a lot about this with her work with CREC in East Hartford.
Okay.
But it would take some time, but it would also have to have board approval. if
Yeah,
you were gonna be
it's like 2 or 3 years, I think the girl said, yeah.
And then the class size.
So Matthew,
Yeah.
I can see where you're coming from, but it's a choice thing. It's like if I decided my child needs to go
To
to
St. Bernard's.
to St. Bernard's,
Right.
town
Pine
of Groton is not going to pay the fee for St. Bernard's. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Or yeah.
I get it.
I know, it's a hard kind of thing, you know?
Adrian?
Yeah, so I appreciate this, and I agree with most of it. Something that's a little bit confusing to me is the evaluations, the hourly cost for evaluations. Because, like, I've actually personally paid for some of these, not through the system, and these numbers seem
This is
much, much higher than you would pay on
exactly
the
learned. We took it right from,
Yeah, this is the going rates for Lauren and EastCon.
and we actually use Learn for some of these resources.
So, like,
So we pay this.
psychological evaluation, it says 1,068 per hour. So we would pay on an evaluation that takes 3 hours, and it probably takes another 3 hours to write up. We're paying like $7,000 for one of those evaluations.
If it were an outside evaluation, it could cost a lot. We do have our own school psychologist who do a lot of the work in-house, so it's the price of their
So
salary.
this isn't, but I mean, obviously no one here makes, 462 or what's the high one, $1,600 per hour. I hope.
No.
I know.
These are
I see it as market rate. The tuitions, I see that's approximately what it costs us, so we're just trying to
Right.
break even on that. These, it seems like they may be at a significant profit for us. So in my opinion, I would rather see what is real cost if we're,
But you're
and there may
comparing
be another
last-
thing that
this
says-
year to, or last year to this
I
year.
know, but I shouldn't say that they're not our costs, but like a psychological evaluation, I just can't imagine that we're spending $6,000 in-house for, because I think that those cost $3,000 or $3,500 or something like that, if you were to just go to
So
a physician that does that.
If I have a student in Learn, RMMS, the, Marine Science High School, this is the rate that we would be charged if they had to receive any of these services, these different rates. That's what we would have to pay. Learn.
So we pay, so the different school, if Groton's responsible for paying because of like RMMS or
Right.
something like that, they would be charging us these rates,
These are the
yes,
rates.
these are the rates that they charge us.
but it's not necessarily, at least my own research, it just doesn't seem to the non-commercial market, I guess. Like if you just call a facility that does speech and language services or something like that, they're not this expensive. But I understand if that's what we have to pay, then we should charge other people that.
Yeah, that's what Learn charges.
Can I ask Rita a question?
Yes, you can.
Rita, this is a could question, not a should question. And I'd like your counsel. Is it useful, would it be useful to look at what we've actually paid over the last couple of years for these types of service, to see if it would be less expensive for us to add a quarter and have another half-time psychologist on staff with a fixed salary rather than farm some of this stuff out?
I'm going to be honest, the market for psychologists, getting one on staff is hard. I don't know if it is that way in Groton, but it's one of those hard to fill areas. Trying to get one would be hard, a half-time psychologist. And I understand your theory about it'll be less money than to pay Learn. but
Our
it's,
kids decide to go to Learn. We have no, if they get into one of these lottery magnet schools, it's our duty to provide the funding to Learn. We don't have a say in it. If they've been accepted and they accept the seat, they go and we pay.
Go ahead,
That's the
Rita.
deal.
but I understand what you're saying. We can go that route. It's been very difficult in Wyndham when we're budgeting, whether to budget for a psychologist on staff or a psychologist consultant, because we couldn't get the psychologist. And so we ended up switching to budgeting for the consultant because we couldn't hire like a half-time for one of the schools that only needed a half-time because of the market. OTPT is the same, yes.
BCBAs are like that.
BCBAs.
We have some that are contracted, and then we have some of our own.
It's the market that drives these prices up.
That's for our kids here.
And that's for just normal. But I understand what you're saying.
And these are only for students that live out of district, that
Correct.
come into our district, that
Want
need these
yes,
evaluations.
or need these evaluations.
Okay. Any questions for the people online?
I just want to say one more thing. If it is, just look at BCBA's, for example. That might not be their hourly rate. That could be their hourly rate with benefits. Benefits can be up to 30% on top of their hourly rate. So I just wanted to give you that concept too. If you're hiring the person in-house, their benefits could cost us up to 30%.
A lot to think about.
Adrian, any more questions?
Well, I guess just one thing, if we were outsourcing something, couldn't we just charge the actual cost? Like have another line item that says, or subcontracted costs? Or is that going to make things too do you understand what I'm saying?
Like these students that we've had at the high school, they usually come in freshman year and they're there for 4 years. And each year this price kind of goes up, as you can see. So we just are going by the scaled cost to provide the parents the year ahead of time, as close as we can.
And I don't believe we're making money. I believe we're charging what Learn charges us.
Yeah, I mean, but we're not going to Learn for necessarily all of these services, are we?
In some cases, I would have to talk to Denise because she's the one that we sat together to come up with these rates.
So I guess my question is that if I was a parent coming in from out of district because I wanted to be an IB, but I thought my child had, we'll call it PT is physical therapy. I thought my child had some kind of an issue where he couldn't write, couldn't hold a pencil properly or something like that. So I wanted some evaluations. Would the cost of that cause a parent to not get the evaluation or not ask or advocate for that evaluation? Because to me, it seems like these costs, that there's other options to these costs if you're a parent. So, like as a parent, I would look at these and say, well, I'm just going to start calling facilities that do this.
Do the parents have the option to find their
They
own?
can do their own.
They can do
Adrian,
their own.
Yeah, they could absolutely.
I do want to say, when my son was younger, he has special needs, and I went out on my own and hired an OT by myself, and it wasn't mainly because of the cost, it's because I wanted a second opinion. But I get what you're saying, that going out might be cheaper, going out to a facility
Well, and it
and
can
find
be
it.
paid by, medical, too.
And, right, and some places pay, the medical, sometimes,
Yeah.
right, at the time, my medical insurance paid for one of them they did not, but most of the time they paid for it.
Yeah.
So parents do have the option
Oh, yeah.
of going outside.
Absolutely.
But if they come in, if we do it in district, this is what we charge. But if they go outside, then they
But only
pay
to
whatever.
non-residents.
Yeah,
I mean,
only
we
for
take care of all
non-residents.
these costs for all of our kids.
Yeah, right.
who are
Only for
residents.
non-residents.
Yeah.
So they have a choice.
Including the one in magnet schools.
Yeah.
You need to pay, right?
Yeah. All right. I guess as long as parents are told, this is what we're going to charge you, but maybe you want to call around.
Are they
I
told
mean,
they can do that?
definitely they're
Well,
told up front.
I don't even know of an incident, to tell you the truth, where this was an issue. There's so few that we've, brought in. I don't even have any recall issue, but I
I
can do
just
a
wonder,
little, I
I just
can
wonder if a
check.
parent would see this and just be scared of it and say,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, Johnny will be fine, rather than saying like, I really think that there's something not right. So I just want to make sure that we're not discouraging services by charging more than they necessarily cost us. But I guess as long as we also explain to parents, this is what we have to charge you because this is the rate, but maybe you can find these same services elsewhere.
Yeah, if we do that, that would be a good idea.
Then when you're getting into the special ed side of
I
it,
don't want to say anything unless I know.
Yeah.
when you're getting into the special ed side of it or the evaluation side of it, typically the district would have to be involved, not the district that the parent lives in, about the cost of whether or not it's in an IEP, whether or not they need the services. I believe it would involve their district as well as not just the parent.
I agree.
You agree?
I mean, when I went out on my own, some facilities said we can't operate, directly for parents. We can only work for school systems. The school system would have to make the referral. It would be very complicated.
Right.
Any other questions? All right, well, this will be on the agenda
For the vote.
for the vote on August 25th, I'm pretty sure. Pretty sure that's the date. All right, thank you, Rita, I appreciate it.
All set? Thank you.
Next on the agenda is discussion, preferred maximum class size. That's attachment number 3 in your packet. Caitlin, could you put attachment number 3 up on the screen for me, please? Thank you, Caitlin. Okay. So, Susan, you want to talk about the preferred class size?
So these have actually been the numbers since I came in about 12 years ago. I'm going into my 12th year. So these have not really changed over time so much. But, we've always said a maximum class preferred size is 20. These are all within the contract too, the teacher's contract as well. The teacher's contract really would provide probably a couple more than you see here, 2 to 4 more. But if we're getting, much over this, let's say 25 number, in the contract, there's language that says that we need to add additional support for those classrooms. And there was only twice that this ever happened in the 12 years that I've been here at Pleasant Valley, where their sub came in and there ended up being 27, 28 in 2 fourth grade classes, and we had to provide para support for them. So really, we've always said for the primary grades, trying to keep the max size at 20, for grades 2, 3, 23, and for 4 through 12, 25 max. Typically, what you see is a range of numbers sometimes between 17 and 22, 23, typically, is what you'll see. And that 17 might be at a military-impacted school where they started with 22, but sometime in January they were 17, and then more kids come in, and now they're back to 21, So we have such an influx and such transitioning happening all the time in Groton, not just with military, but also, with families moving in and out to find stable housing. And then remedial self-contained rooms, really more than 14 would be very difficult. They're typically 8 to 10. So you see maximum, but I'm just telling you typically what you see. And then remedial or individual small group, 40, that would be, a lot, but we do have specialists in math and specialists in ELA or interventionist in ELA. And their caseloads also vary over time. So you might work with a child for 6 to 12 weeks, maybe even a whole trimester or semester, but then another group come in so that, you'll add 20 one semester and 20 another. So, that's why that number is so large. Tech ed at the high school, or even, 9 through 12 is 20, and I think that had to do with the number of computers in the room at one point. Culinary arts is just the workspace. If we ever do get that culinary room adjusted and have more space and better equipment, we might be able to service more kids. Music is typically 25, and that's usually the classroom size needed. Of course, you'll see a band teacher or orchestra teacher bring more kids together in a larger space at different times to prepare for a performance. Art is typically 20, and that's, I think, the size at the high school and the vintage wing for the setup. And phys ed is typically around 30. And, in most of our schools, we have gymnasiums that can split into two large spaces. So you might have 30 with a teacher on one side and 30 with a teacher on the other side. Guidance counselors, the ratio is 200 to 1. Typically, I think ours is more like 175 to 1, but I can get you more accurate numbers like to date. Library media specialists, they take care of the whole school, and we have one per school. So we have library media specialists at the middle school and the high school who really service the entire population. Not all at once; they wouldn't all fit in that library, in either library. But and then there's a assistant. They have a library
assistant,
tech assistant. So for those bigger schools of 1,000, 800, 900, 1,000, they do have an assistant. And then the self-contained rooms, 12 to 1. Like I said, typically we'll see 8 to 10 to maybe 12, but 12 is a lot. And our resource room, we look at our caseloads constantly for our special education teachers who have, resource, and they provide instruction sometimes in a classroom and go into the classroom to support the child, and then they'll pull them out for specified reading instruction especially. So we do have quite a few students. We're identifying more students who have dyslexia and servicing them sooner, which is, I applaud, and that is very succinct. Wilson-trained teachers or Orton Gillingham trained teachers with specialized programs. So, and that would be in a resource room setting, sometimes 1-to-1, sometimes 2-to-1, sometimes 4-to-1. So, the caseloads vary, sometimes 17 to 20 for special educators, but we try to keep it within that range and not go over that.
The resource teacher doesn't have 20 students at one time?
Not at once.
Okay.
That's her whole caseload, so.
Oh, so you might want to put 20 as the whole caseload.
Yeah. Well, same thing with library media and guidance
okay.
and everything.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yep.
And what about the self-contained, the 12 to 1? Is that?
They're in a classroom,
Okay, that's in a
typically all
classroom.
together. The ABA
Okay.
program, the academy, but those children also get out to a designated classroom. So whether they're in morning meeting or specials, or some of our academy kids, really, they grow over time and they're able to be in a classroom most of the day, and then they graduate, which is the happy ones.
Open for questions? Adrian? No questions?
Thinking.
Okay.
Jen, raise your hand.
Oh, Jen, go ahead.
Bev, was the physical ed, was it 30?
Could you-
Was it 35? Like when we were starting to review it, I thought that was the number, like in the contract.
In the
The
contract?
contract
Yeah.
is higher than these numbers.
Yeah,
And
that's
we
what.
have had 35. Groton Middle School, when it first opened, we had 40, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that these are aligned with whatever the teachers are
Yes.
thinking.
Oh, yeah, we can't do more, we can't have more kids than what's in the teacher's contract.
Yeah.
This is actually less than.
Less than? Okay. Thank you.
All right, I'm ready now.
Okay.
I appreciate this. I know we've kind of talked about this. This page has been, I believe it's been in our budget for the last couple of years. So
It says it was done, look at the top, approved by Groton Board of Ed, regular meeting October 23rd, 2023.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked
Yeah.
about it this current
Yeah,
board, but
that's right.
But I appreciate this coming forward. As you know, I have special special interest in trying to bring up some of those kids in the K to 3 range, feeling that it will have a rippling effect throughout our whole system over time. So I would be curious to see if possibly reducing, because we're saying preferred maximum class size when we know the actual maximum class size is going to be what's in the teacher's contract. This is just what the board prefers. So I would be interested in seeing if it would make sense in trying to achieve those goals, possibly reducing those by 1 or 2 or 3. And specifically, I would like to have some educator input. I mean, we can have studies. I've done some searching for studies on this, and it seems like there are some that are 20 years old, and it didn't seem like there's tons of relevant studies, but maybe there are, because I am not a professional at this. But I would be really interested in seeing the educator input. So from teachers or other people in the classrooms, if they feel like I can do a much better job with 18, but sometimes when I have 22, it's just over the top. And maybe as a board, we can't say 18, but it would be nice to know what the teachers thought, or what the educators or people in the classrooms thought on this. So, I wouldn't, I'm particularly interested in those younger ages, and probably special ed teachers in general, but I wouldn't exclude everything else, because I'm sure all the teachers have.
Well, what would be your suggestion for preferred class sizes in the lower grades?
I don't know. That's what I was saying. I would like to ask the teachers what they feel they can be most successful with. So I could say preferred class size would be great if we could do 4 to 1, because then I think we'd be super successful. But obviously,
we're going to get that budget.
Obviously, that's not realistic. So we have to weigh those two things together: the cost to the taxpayers and how much the taxpayers are willing to spend on education, and then the effect, like the improvement. Because maybe there is no difference between 4 and 8 to 1, or whatever. Not that I don't want to get stuck on those low numbers, because I'm not advocating for that at all.
4 is better than 8.
But if the teachers were to come back and say that I'm really not effective when I have 23 or 25, but I really feel like my classrooms are more effective. If we could ask that question of them somehow, that would be very interesting. And so use some actual educator input on these numbers rather than just using them because we've had them for so long.
So I want to also say that Beverly had asked at the same time, could we get you guys the latest enrollment projection? So that was provided to you. And it was interesting to me because our class size, kindergarten is not totally full. There's some small class sizes in Catherine Kolnowski and Northeast Academy. To the effect that we're going to move one of their K classrooms to be a TK because we have more kids who would have made that goal for being in a kindergarten the year before. So we feel like that can be expanded throughout the district, and we'll end up with 4 TKs just like we had this year. And there's still room, you can see, to add in more kindergartners. But the range goes from like 13, 14 in those 2 schools kindergarten, all the way 20, 18, 20, 21, 21, 17. You see the range. I think there's a 22 in 5th grade at Northeast, and there's a 25 at Charles Barnum. I think that was the highest one I saw, Charles Barnum, 24 in grade 5. So nothing goes up over 22, let's say, in K through 3. There's 122 at Charles Barnum.
Can I just ask one question
Yeah.
on this? So specifically Charles Barnum grade 3, that 44 students, I haven't looked at these numbers, but in May we looked at them when we were talking about the budget, and currently in grade 2, I don't remember exactly what the number was, but it was high 50s at Charles Barnum. So there was some questioning on that number, if that was realistic, and I'm just wondering, is that it's the same, I believe it was 44 in May too. So I'd be curious to see if that, where, know that those 12 children left the school, or whatever number that was. But I would like to double check on that one specific.
I can look back at that.
It seems,
What we do
Which
is-
one was that, Adrian? I'm sorry.
well, it seems like, it seems abnormal, because when we had the current enrollment in May, it showed second grade Charles Barnum, I don't remember the number, but it was high 50s. Because we had this discussion before.
Right,
And
we
then
did.
that 44 number for 3 seemed abnormal compared to all of the other ones, seemed right. It seemed like, maybe they were going up by a student or 2 or down by a student or 2 when they make the grade switch, except for that one instance of grade 3 at Charles Barnum.
I'll double check on that, but that is not unusual for Charles Barnum. There is rarely a child who's still in the 5th grade that started in K. Like, there's such a turnover. What we do is, at the end of the school year, the secretaries send out a form for them to fill out, usually during conference time, on if they're returning to Groton. And that's where we get a lot of our data, but we really don't know officially until they're all seated in the seat, until those October 1 numbers, like who's really showing up.
Jen?
Charles Barnum, too. You had mentioned it, like some of the K classes are 14, 18. Charles Barnum is at 20. Is it a space issue where we could have 4 kindergarten classes so that we can lower that to be more comparable to the other schools?
There's not another classroom to be had in any of our schools. There's no space. But what we do now that we're a lottery system is we reserve slots for the magnet schools. And many military families coming in, let's say if there's a threshold or a maximum number that we place on that, we offer them a seat at one of the magnet schools, and they usually take it. So that really has worked to our advantage, and it's, really differentiated our schools a little bit better.
Is it possible, and I don't know if the seating charts have already been is it possible to plan for this upcoming K class to just fill it with 18, 17 so that at least it's sort of comparable to the other peer schools, and then remove 3 per class?
They're going to fill up. I'm not worried about the K classes that are at Northeast and CK.
Yep.
They'll get closer to
20.
20. But
Okay.
yeah, they will get better. They'll get better seated. CK especially has been known to have students sign up. Like once those little yellow school buses has driven past the home, people would, I think we need to put them in school. So there are families that are moving in constantly
Okay.
at, CK. Northeast, not so much transiency, but they certainly have, both of them are available with lottery seats, which is good.
Thank you.
Lauren, did you want to jump in and add something?
No, I think Susan did. I just wanted to be sure you understood that there are still 170 students that are in the process of registering. So those seats will certainly fill or come pretty close to filling.
Ian, you have your hand up?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to express support for Adrian's comments, and I'm not going to belabor the point tonight, but I'm a firm believer, as I've said before, in smaller class sizes. So I'm glad to hear that 20 is a bit of a cap, but obviously there's some flex built into that. I mean, I would think it valuable to explore a variety of options just to kind of game things out and see what would it look like if we tried to make it a goal to get class sizes down to 15, 18, 18, 15, or 12 or 10.
Get the budget.
And I think, yeah, I understand that, but I want to see what the budget would look like with those things, sort of like, do the scenario, right? Run out the scenario, see what the numbers would actually look like. And, talk about the value of smaller class sizes as well. Like, what would that bring to the classroom for educational impact? What would it bring for the ability to differentiate? What would it bring for behavior management? So that sort of thing, I think would be a good experiment to run for the, the board at some point. But obviously, like in the realm, in reality right now on the ground, we're not equipped to do that, and no one will be anytime. So I appreciate all the work, and I would just encourage whatever we could do to keep those numbers down as much as possible, so that the teachers can maximize their impact and students can feel engaged. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Matthew?
I have two questions, Susan. What is the threshold, the maximum threshold that a class can have without having some extra staff assigned to provide support to the teacher? Is that when we hit 20, when we hit 22? When is, in your opinion, we better provide some extra help so we get the kids educated?
I don't want to misquote the teacher's contract,
I think
but
it's like 28.
It's 20, yeah, it's like 27, 28.
Yeah.
Well, that's when we are legally obliged
Right.
to respect it. So my question to you is not our legal obligation, but as an educator, when do you feel that we might need to have some extra support?
Well, it really depends on the classroom and the classroom needs. So we really do cluster some kids in different classrooms, but everybody has a cluster of kids who have certain needs. So whether it's a cluster of EL students and they have an EL teacher and a tutor, or whether it's special education and they have a resource teacher, who services the group. And sometimes they're spread out through, all 4 classes. So it really is the dynamics of the classroom and the needs of the students. So there's not any just right answer, cookie cutter answer. We really do it case by case and what the needs are in the classroom.
Okay, so the second question is, and maybe we'll get into this later in more depth, the USS Alabama has been assigned to be home ported here, and the boat arrived on Thursday. I don't know if they're all celibate on board, or if they've got 20 kids apiece on board, probably somewhere in between. I know that John had suggested some people who could do studies, but I think that between our liaison...
I've reached out to Miranda Chapman and Captain Curtin.
Oh, great.
Are you thinking that, are you going to tie this into class sizes?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely it's tied into class sizes, because if we have a new home ported thing and the families start arriving in the next 2 or 3 months, we're certainly going to have a class size issue. So I'm glad to hear we've made those. I'm grateful that we've made those contacts.
Yes, absolutely.
And
Lauren may even know if anybody from the new submarine coming into town, and she talks to Miranda. Lauren, do you know of any students who have enrolled from the new submarine that's coming to port here?
We do have military students who have registered recently. Whether they're from the new boat or not, no, that I don't know.
So we can check on our end, and Miranda can check for us also.
Yes.
thank you, and I'll develop that more in the next.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, well, this will be on our agenda for the August 25th regular board meeting for approval. So if you have any questions before that, please send them to Susan so she can get the questions answered before we have the meeting. All right, next is the referral list. And that's attachment number 4. Okay. Anything, discussion of the mentor program, we'll do that in September, October. Development of board goals, that will be on the agenda on August 25th. Everyone received the goals. We had 7 people in attendance, 2 people absent. So when the board went over their goals, that's going to be on the agenda. Anything, the dashboard proposal, that's on the agenda for discussion. It says discussion, views, and dashboard proposal. We could put that on a COW meeting for discussion, maybe in September. What do you think?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
do that in September.
Okay. Adrian, you have your hand up?
Oh, yeah. One thing for curriculum, we had talked about future topics in the last regular meeting, and I had made a statement that we were going to have some discussion on awarded quality points, alignment of awarded quality points in curriculum, and that probably should have been a referral to curriculum versus a future topic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where's that, Adrian?
It's not on here. I
Oh,
made
okay.
in the, was it the July 28th meeting, at the end of the meeting, you said, do we have any future topics? And I said, well, this is just for curriculum, but it's just discussion of quality points, which are kind of the weighted averages, or the weighted class. The points awarded for grades, in weighted classes.
So discussion of quality points you're going with?
I think that's, am I correct in that?
That sounds right.
I think that's what Anne Marie had called them. I didn't know what they would call it. I would just call it the weighted scoring.
Okay. Okay. Robotics, we're still looking at.
Oh, I had done a walkthrough. I think I put it in the board email. And we had Sherry Fakis with us, and we're planning on doing another walkthrough this week. So trying to figure out, what's the best solution, maybe long-term, short-term. And we had gotten the projection of using, we were told by the fire department that if we moved to Mary Morrison, we'd have to have a sprinkler system. So we got the specifics on that system, and we gave it to the fire chief, and we're still waiting to hear back if that would be the ticket, if that would help, and we could get the kids over there. So, I'll keep,
It's ongoing.
keep asking for that.
On the simple student exit survey, can Matt come to a meeting and
Matt can
talk
come.
about
Yeah,
that?
he actually has all the data done.
Okay.
He's collected all the data from the survey.
Okay.
So,
So maybe
we reviewed
in,
it at his end year eval, so I can have him present to that.
okay. We could do it September or October, we'll see how the
Okay.
agendas go. Okay. I made a referral for monthly reconciliations to policy. I don't know if that's something the board wants to have policy take a look at or not. It's up to the board. It's my referral, but it's up to the board.
I'm all in favor of it.
Remind saying that again, what was that?
A referral that we have I don't know if we have a policy already.
We do, and it does need to be looked at.
Okay.
Yep.
To look at the monthly reconciliations, like every month, we look at, like you do your own checkbook.
Oh, the financial.
Yeah, financial.
Yeah, I would support that as well.
Okay.
I also see you had recommended attendance policy, and Anne Marie says we've got to get that one to
Yeah,
policy
she's
as well.
What do you think, Jen, about the policy committee looking at a monthly reconciliation policy?
It's actually in a policy. We already have it. But we have to look at, but we can look at it and make sure it's updated. I think we should pull it out and see it.
If it's already there,
Yeah.
Might as well review it, because some of those haven't been reviewed in a
I know.
while.
This is one of those, but it did have it
Okay.
in there, so we can certainly do that. And I know that Rita's on that. She's been doing that herself, even.
Matthew, what do you think about it?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Andrea, are you in favor of my referral for a monthly, looking at the policy for monthly reconciliation?
Yes.
Okay. Jay? Is Jay still there? No. Okay, Jay's not there. Okay, so we'll put that on the referral list. Okay. That's it for the agenda. Do I have a motion to
No,
adjourn?
I would like to speak. I sent a letter to the board and to Susan earlier, just a day or so ago, based on the arrival of the USS Alabama and the potential for having a surge of students that we don't know if there's going to be a surge or not. That's the fact, as far as I know. But given the fact that it is being home ported here, we need to know whether we're likely to have a surge. So I would like to know if somebody could tell me if this would require a motion to suspend the rules, or if being in a cow, we could just add something to the agenda.
No, you can't add anything.
So I would move a suspension of the rules to allow us to add to the agenda a discussion of a potential surge and how we might deal with that.
Can I find out the facts for you? I reached out to Captain Curtin, who is the CO of Subbase, and
Well, that's what I'd like
Find
us
out
to
what-
discuss. I have some other questions I'd like to ask.
I did send you a note saying that I would put it on the September agenda, and then we can have Miranda here to talk about it, and we can have a better discussion.
I'm sure you'll have a better discussion, but this is the last cow I'm going to be at, and next Monday's agenda is already jam-packed, and I would really like the privilege, it's not a right, it's a privilege of being able to discuss this for a few moments. I'm not going to take more than 3 or 4 hours. Seriously, just a few minutes.
can I just add one piece of information
Sure.
I know is that one of the subs that is coming into port, and I don't know which one it is, but it's coming in to have work done at Electric Boat, and I was told that it's a 1 year, so in a 1 year, they don't move families. If they're here 2 years or more, they move their families. So this could be a moot point, but I can get the details on your question, and that,
Well,
That would at least give you more
that'll be the reconstituted board. When you add somebody else, that's fine. But I would really appreciate the opportunity to at least broach the topic and share a few ideas for the board's consideration.
All right, I'll second.
Okay. And all those in favor of suspending the rules to add something to the agenda, say, raise your hand. Matthew? Jen? Ian? Dr. A?
No.
Okay. Let me say exactly what we do. So we want to suspend the rules.
We would need 2/3 of the voting members to...
So Matthew made the motion. Adrian, you
The
second.
question is, would it be 2/3 of total members or 2/3 of members present,
I think it's 2/3 members present.
Yeah,
which Jay is not here?
which Jay's not here.
Yeah, but it would still be 6, I think, because
Okay.
you have to round down to the nearest whole number.
Okay, so Jen's in favor. Matthew, Ian, Adrian. Dr. A, what did you say?
Didn't know.
And I say no, because I don't see it as an emergency. And if it's not an emergency, I'm saying no.
Well, look who just walked in the door.
Jay, are you in favor of suspending the rules to talk about the Columbia class? Suspending the rules.
It's not about Columbia.
Okay, just suspending the rules. Matthew, you could tell them what you want.
Add an agenda item?
Yeah,
No.
No.
No, I'm against that.
okay. So,
We need to stop making a habit of that. It isn't fair to the public.
Well,
and that's what we always say, it's not fair to the
It's not fair
public.
to the public.
to
It's
ask
an
a-
emergency.
That's what I
We're
say,
not-
it's not an emergency.
I would argue, Jay, respectfully,
We're not going to argue.
It's not,
My answer is no.
the point can't be discussed.
Yeah, yeah.
There's no discussion on this.
Okay,
okay.
that fails. Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, and then I need a motion to go into executive session. Do I have a motion to go into executive session? It is,
For the purpose of,
wait a second. Okay, 7:42,
So do we have to, oh, yeah, sorry.
for the purpose to continue the superintendent's evaluation.
Moved. Looking for a move
Point of
or
order.
motion?
Point of order.
What happened? Wait a second. What'd you say, Dr. A?
Are you looking for a motion? I'll move that.
Okay. To continue superintendent. You have to be here in person, though.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes. For the purpose of continue.
Oh. It'll take me about 15 minutes to drive over there.
All right. Come on.
Okay. All right. Okay. I did not realize. I apologize. Okay.
Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll second.
Oh, wait.
Wait, do I have a motion?
She can't be here. I'll make the motion.
So moved, or so seconded.
All right, so it's 7:42. It's Adrian and Ian. Okay.
Do you recognize my point of order?
Mhm.
What is the process by which to add an agenda item for the meeting next Monday?
You want to add an item for discussion?
Yes. Not a vote, just
Okay.
discussion.
Just send me a note, and if we have room on the agenda, I'll add it. If not, like I said, I'll put it in for
Okay.
October, September.
Call Andrea and just pick her up.
You want to go there?
I think it's better that way.
Oh, thank you, Adrian.
Let me go phone and see if I can get her though.
Thank you.
Right, we are now going into, all those in favor of going into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
All right, so that's, I don't know where Jay went, so that's Jen, Matthew, Ian, yes?
Second that motion to go into executive session.
That's Thomas.
I have, thank you, Ian.
Moved by Johnson, seconded by Thomas.
Did you hear? Adrian made the motion, Ian seconded the motion.
I got that as the adjournment of the COW, but then you said you wanted to go into executive session. I'm just looking for the order. Should the executive session be before the adjournment?
No, the executive session should be after the adjournment. We're adjourned.
Okay.
Wait, do we even adjourn?
Well, we haven't adjourned yet.
No, we haven't adjourned. We just went into executive session. We'll come back at the executive session and adjourn.
All right,
Okay.
Susan, you can give me that information.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
All right, thank you.
So two important things. I have something from Miranda that I just got and I'm sending to you. There's,
Wait, are we still, you could cut the recording off now.